I want to talk about the bottom line thread with Superior. It's one of my favorite threads for quilting. I love quilting with a lot of detail. That's one reason I enjoy this thread so much. The bottom line is a polyester. It's a 60 weight, which means it's very thin. This thread will blend with your fabric. You're going to make choices in your threads whether you want it to show or not to show. The bottom line is a wonderful thread when you do not want it to show. When the thread was first developed, it was developed to be used in your bobbin. But you can use it in the top too, so I'm going to give you some tips on how to use it in the top. The needle that I like using with the bottom line is the Superior's Titanium 7010. When you're using the bottom line on top, always use a top stitch needle. That helps protect the thread, and it should avoid any shredding problems if you're using the top stitch needle. One reason I enjoy using this thread so much, like I said, is it blends. When I'm using it in the top, you can take the bottom line thread, if it's a light color, you can place it on your fabric and do your quilting and it blends in. I have heavily quilted this piece with bottom line thread and you barely see the thread. All you're seeing is the beautiful texture in the petals and in the leaves. When I'm doing my whole cloth quilting, I can get my fine details with my bottom line thread. It's such a thin thread, you're just barely seeing the thread, but you're seeing the beautiful design. And then I use it on the back all the time. It's also a wonderful thread for your binding, for applique. You can see on this small whole cloth that I have lots and lots of little beads in here. I'm using the bottom line thread for my beading. I like it because the bottom line has a texture and it's strong. So when I'm double and triple stitching my beads on my quilt, it pulls the bead down to the quilt and you are only seeing the bead. You are not seeing the thread itself. It's available in a cone. This is the only way I buy it because I use so much of this thread. It's more economical to buy your thread in a cone versus a spool. But it's available in a cone. It's available in a 1420 yard spool. It's also available in pre-wound bobbins. I love the pre-wound bobbins. These are specially wound with special machines, so you are able to get 3 times the amount of thread on a machine wound bobbin than you are winding the bobbin normally on your machine. You can sew for hours without ever having to change your bobbin. It also comes in a variety of color. These are the Holy Super Bobs. This is a wonderful color range of the bottom line colors. This is wonderful if you want a good assortment of different colors, getting a lot of thread on each of the bobbins. One collection I love to recommend to my students is we've got a dozen colors in 3 different sets. These are great. A lot of appliqueurs will use this. They'll put them in their special sewing cases when they're traveling, so they have a large assortment of different colors to pack with them and not have to carry around the bulky spools. The pre-wound bobbins come in 2 different sizes. The smaller L size is used in the domestic sewing machines. The M size is larger and is typically used in long arm machines. Some domestic machines, such as the Bernina 730 that I'm using, requires that the cardboard sides on the bobbin be pulled off. So all you have to do is pull off the side, one or both sides. The thread is so tightly wound on the bobbin that it will not come apart when it's placed back in your bobbin case. For a complete listing of the compatible machines that the pre-wound bobbins will work with, please visit Superior Thread's website at superiorthreads.com. As I'm demonstrating each of the thread in these segments, I've chosen the same color fabric in every segment, and I'm choosing all yellow and gold threads just so you can see the contrast and how each thread looks on the fabric as I'm quilting it. You can see the different qualities of the thread. For this bottom line demo, I've chosen this gold bottom line. It's 602. This is one of my favorite colors. So when I'm laying it down on my fabric, you can see that I get a very thin line for my quilting. I have already pre-quilted part of this design. I have put a nice detail, a little wispy detail in the middle of each feather, and I've chosen this reddish black bottom line, number 603. I like it because it is blended beautifully with this red fabric. I chose this red because you don't see it. I want the gold bottom line to show up first. I want the red bottom line because it disappears to only provide me with a little wispy detail in the middle of the feather. I also use machine gear gloves. This is what I use for all my machine quilting. I absolutely love these gloves. They don't make your hands hot. Your hands don't sweat. The rubber tips is what provides the traction. So when you're sewing, you have very good control over the movement of your fabric. You're not stressing out your shoulders and your neck trying to hang on to the fabric while you're quilting. They come in 4 different sizes, so find a size that fits well. You always want to make sure that they hit your fingertips. They come all the way down to the bottom of your fingers, and you don't want it too tight. If your gloves are too baggy and you've got a lot of baggage at the end, that's a safety hazard. It could get caught in your needle. So make sure you have a nice firm fit to the gloves. But I love them and they last forever. You can wash them and dry them multiple times. I've had some of my gloves for a period of a couple years before I go in and replace them. When I start my quilting, I always pull up my bobbin thread. I've already done that here, and then I've used my superior snippers. I like the curved tip because when I'm pulling up my bobbin thread, I can pull it over to the side, grab it with my fingers, and then I can start my quilting. I've taken my thread up and I've pulled it through with my superior snippers, and I'm now holding both the bottom and the top thread with my left hand. I'm now ready to start my quilting. When I start my feathers, I always start down at the bottom. At least on this design, I'm going to come up and I'm going to show you how to do a really easy banana feather. It's a great way to do a continuous line feather. So I've got my hand tension with my gloves, and I'm just going to start. I'm going to come all the way up. I'm going to bring it all the way down to the spine. When I get down, double stitch, and then I'm going to go up and make a little banana. It's a beautiful way to add some detail to the back of those feathers. You don't have to worry about it being even. They can all be different sizes. It's great for a good beginner quilter. This is a technique I teach in my beginning machine quilting class, and everybody gets it. They absolutely love it. We'll just finish up a couple more here so you can see what this is going to look like. And you'll notice that I'm not quilting fast. I take my time. I like a nice smooth rhythm to my quilting. It also gives you better control too. And that's it. So this completes our quilting motif with the bottom line thread. This is a thread that my beginning students love because it blends. You don't see the thread. It hides all the newbie mistakes and the learning stitches. Remember that you can use this thread on the bottom. Use it on the top with your top stitch 70-10 needle. You can use it for binding. You can use it for applique and for beading.